I'ma help the people close to me. They help the people close to them and they.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Jory. We back with another Unguarded episode. We here with Skylar Spencer. Make sure I say your name right. I got the thing with names sometimes. This is bad. You know, one of my friends told me you're not supposed to know this many people in the world. I was like, that's it. That's why I can't remember that many names, because it's just unnatural, you know. But pronunciation is a different thing. But I appreciate you, Skylar. Another vet coming through to share some gems, have a conversation with me. How you doing?
I'm great. I'm out here in Italy. I'm getting through my season, and it's that time of the year, you know, when you're almost at the finish line, but can't complain. Everything's great. You know, I'm happy to be here. You know, real excited to talk to you.
Definitely. So do you drink wine or at all, or?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I don't want to say definitely, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna start it off with just some chill questions. Yeah. I played 6 years in Italy, so you know, Italy definitely, like, the coffee's better, the wine's better. Some people say France, Spain, but I'm saying Italy hands down. So for you, do you have a favorite wine that you like, that you know, like, this is my favorite right now in Italy?
My favorite right now, because I'm up north, I'm in the Friuli area, and they literally have a wine that's called Friuli, which is it's like a white wine, and that's my favorite. I'm a white wine kind of guy, so
all right.
That's my go-to right here. So it's cool to be in the area of your favorite wine.
Yeah, that's cool. My favorite is Rucche. It's near, like, the Piemonte, Torino area up north.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a red wine though. So I'm more red. Spain has me on the white wine, but when it comes to Italy, I really love the red wine. So my favorite is Rucche. Next one, what's like your favorite Italian food? You going more risotto? You going?
I'm a pasta guy. I like it's a pistachio pasta that I like.
Oh, okay.
With sausage. Sometimes they put bacon in it. And,
okay, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, for me, I could eat that every other day. You know, I try to put my friends on when they come to visit, but you know, I say the word pistachio, it throws them off. I understand, but it's one of those things you just got to try and you get it. I know you get it because, you know, pistachio is everywhere out here.
Yeah, I get it. I get it. That Italian sausage with that pistachio, however they make that pasta, I've had that before. Definitely bomb.
Yes.
Definitely bomb. It's hard for me to choose. It's hard for me. I like a lot of the different things, but I definitely love the different types of risotto, any type. And then I like the cacio e pepe. That's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, I like that too.
So yeah, it's a mix of things going to. Then, okay, one place, location. No matter, it's a park, if it's a barbershop, if it's the lake or something, what's one location that you really is on your, like, checked on your Google Maps? Maybe, I don't know if you curate your Google Map. I know not everybody is into that, but what's one location during your time in Italy that you're like, I like going to that little spot?
I would say Lake Como. Was it last year? 2 years ago, actually. I lived around that area. I live about an hour away, and I was able to visit all throughout the year. And it's crazy. Beautiful lake, beautiful views, a lot to do, especially when you get towards the spring and everything opens up. I got to go on the water, you know, do the whole little tour, the boat ride and all of that. So that's a great place that, you know, a lot of tourists go, and I was blessed to be able to just basically just drive down the street to go. So that's one of those places for me, for sure. What about you?
Nice. Man, I gotta go with, you know, I've been there. I've had people that's like family. So I have two areas. I say Ischia, which is in the Amalfi Coast. Ischia is the bigger island near Capri.
Mm-hmm.
But I have family there that, you know, they're like my Italian family. So Ischia is definitely a go-to place. And then for me, Arona. Arona is 45 minutes north of Milan. And it's on a lake, Lago Maggiore, I think it's called.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful little town. If you ever been to Arona, they have some really good food spots, like for as meat, fish. I've tried a number of the restaurants up there, and it's a hidden gem. It's not really packed with people. Still beautiful. The lake is like big, so you have a lot of space to just walk along the lake. So those are two of my go-to spots for sure.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot of hidden gems out here in Italy. A lot of people don't know about.
Definitely. All right, so to start it off, again, you've had a number of things happening in career. We're not going to be able to get to it all in this conversation, but I wanted to start it off. You know, you're from Inglewood, correct? Just making sure.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm originally from New Orleans. I feel like I moved around a lot, but the core, your foundation of where you start always is going to be the key thing that I believe is always going to be a part of you. So
Hmm.
Inglewood made you what exactly is kind of the question. So it's like, it's where you started, what did the place help build inside of you? Not basketball, but just as a person
Yeah.
being from Inglewood, what key things, what key ingredients are still a part of like your Skylar sauce, I guess,
Yeah.
that started out being, from Inglewood?
Yeah. I think I would say the biggest thing is that it gave me a sense of pride, like, just being where I'm from. I don't know if you met anybody from Inglewood, but someone's always going to tell you they're from Inglewood, even though it's a part of the LA County. Like, people
Hmm.
aren't going to say that they're from LA. So, I've always been really proud of being from the city and, being proud of representing that wherever I go. And it just growing up there, it taught me to be tough. It taught me how to survive, how to adapt. All of those skills without even knowing it. It helped me today. I don't want to say like I lived the craziest life, but I've seen some things, and it taught me how to maneuver, how to get through it. How to have tough skin when the time comes. A little bit of everything that helped me build up to who I am today.
Got you. Are you the only child? Like, what's the
No,
background?
I have two older sisters. I my the my oldest one she was already out the house by the time I was born, and the other one like 7-8 years apart. So by the time I was in third grade, she was off to college. I kind of grew up only child in the house, and was always the baby of the family.
Got you. Yeah, I mean, my brother, he's just starting his freshman year at college. So kind of was the same. He was born and I was
Hmm.
leaving for college, basically. So it kind of was just like he was the only child in a sense, even though, I would come back and forth at times. So I wonder how did that feel for you? Did you feel like you really had all this? I don't know, how close were they? Because obviously I was playing D1 basketball, so it wasn't like I could just be a normal
Yeah.
student who was in school but still home.
Yeah, the oldest one, she stayed in California, so I grew up around her. The other one, she went to Howard, so she was on the other side of the country, and
Hmm.
she spent, and then she stayed there after college for a little bit, and I think she didn't move back until maybe I was in high school, so I didn't,
Okay.
and since I was cool with them, but I didn't really get close with them until I got a little bit older when, I wasn't
Right.
this annoying little kid anymore. Because since we technically didn't grow up together, it was hard for us to kind of be attached like that. But now we're really close. My oldest one, she's a teacher, and it's funny. She was actually my Spanish teacher in my high school for like 1 or 2 years.
That's
So
cool.
yeah. So I always had her around one way
Right.
or another. So that was a real cool experience.
Got you. So, in a sense, you feel for the most part, as you're saying, it's just like where you from made you tough. Is there anything else that you feel really, you know, helped you, molded you before your journey leaving home, going to college, etc., kicked off?
I mean, I had a pretty good support system coming up. Good family. Everyone was
Hmm.
always there for me. So I felt like that kind of set me up for the future for what I need to do because I always knew I had somebody to lean back on.
Right.
I always had family to talk to. Yeah, everyone kind of played a part. The city included. Helped build me up.
Nice. So, would you say like you understand the meaning of community? I think for me, I was asked the question, what is community to you? I grew up in New Orleans. I grew up on the same street. My big mama, big daddy, my great uncles, everybody. I grew up on the street where all my cousins. I grew up really in a
Hmm.
community. The church was there. We knew everybody. So, and it was kind of like I could go down the street to anybody else if I'm hungry and eat. And the pot was on the stove. Whoever wanted to come through to my grandma's house, if you wanted to sit down, you could eat and get a meal. It was like your real thought of community. Everybody sacrificed a little bit to make sure everyone's okay. And so community for me was really like the concept of like Black Wall Street and those types of things. Like
Hmm.
really taking it seriously. Like, hey, we are gonna be intentional with what we do, who we buy from, how we show a helping hand. But I realize that's not the definition of what community is for everyone. So for you, do you feel you grew up in a a certain type of community that you built a different type of character from, or would you say community for you has a different type of definition?
Yeah, I guess for me, community is just about if you just have a solid circle that you could lean
Hmm.
on. For me, growing up, like with family, my family's not that big, and we were a lot closer when I was younger. But as we
Hmm.
got older, grandparents passed, and there's no reason to go to grandma's house anymore. Everyone
Right.
kind of does their own thing, so you lean on the family that you do have that you talk to. You lean on your friends. You lean on your partners. So for me, it's just always been about who's solid with you throughout the journey
Right.
growing up, and that's who I consider my community. Like I have a few best friends from high school. That's part of my community.
Right.
I got my wife, I got other people. I got other people in my family. So it's just small people that are consistently with you throughout the way. I would say so.
Gotcha. Makes sense for sure. So you played D1. You made it to the Sweet 16, and you still went undrafted. I know I was drafted, but I also know that feeling of like immediately getting cut. Feeling like I made it
Yeah,
and getting cut, and then it was just like the wave of emotions, just until you sit
yeah.
down and process it. Like, man, I was really like depressed. But walk me through the hours after, knowing you didn't get drafted. What was actually going on inside of your mind? Were you prepared for it, or was it something that you were like, dang, you were expecting after what you did to get
Yeah,
there?
I was very prepared to not get drafted.
Okay.
I had my thought process for that started years prior. I kind of started to understand somewhere around my junior year of college that maybe that the NBA is not in the cards for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I started to just mentally accept that I'm probably gonna go overseas. I wasn't really interested in doing the G League route. I had self awareness in that area. I wasn't disappointed on draft night. I will say maybe when the draft happened, there's just that slight moment of like I'm just kind of like, man, like what could have been. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily disappointment. It's just it's okay to be self aware, but to also be a bit vulnerable and to be disappointed for a second. But yeah, I wouldn't say like I felt let down on the draft just because I had already mentally prepared myself for that.
Right. I mean, you brought up self awareness, and I think it's a mix of like, I feel like, you have those D2, lower D1, those that started not as talented and maybe got better over time usually has that self awareness than those that were always a star. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
But starting grassroots and going through, before you even probably college time and the recruiting process, all those things, were there people in your circle that did you feel you had a lot of people in your circle that genuinely just wanted you to make it to your dream? And then vice versa, did you come across any people that you knew in your young age was more so there, as they say, kind of like a culture vulture, hoping to be aligned with the right ones that they feel might make it, might be talented? Just to backtrack a little bit, because I think it's a topic that we don't talk about a lot around,
Mhm.
as I say, culture vultures for athletes, of how do you really determine who you can trust. And so
Mhm.
obviously having a good tribe of people around you helps you, because you have people that genuinely like, you have this dream, as my family, my mom was, we're here to do whatever we can to help you get it. But
Yeah.
in the world of NIL, it's going to make it even more difficult. So I guess speak on that a little bit, your circle. And were there
Yeah.
people that you felt were coming around that were not there really for you?
I kept my circle pretty small. There was, obviously with, coming up in AAU, a lot of people wanted me to play for the team and this and that, and approached by a lot of coaches. So I'm sure that I've had conversations with people who, if I had kept them around, they were probably only there for the moment. But, I try not to get overly close to anybody like that. It's just, it's my
Mhm.
family, my friends, my high school coach who always had my best interests at heart. So I never really tried to lean into someone too much that I didn't know, or if I didn't feel they had good intentions. So yeah, I mean, even like in college, I mean in high school, I had a pretty good name, but there was no talks that like I was going to be done one and done or nothing like that. So
Hmm.
if anyone was around, it would have to be someone that, really wanted to invest that time with me, who thought, kind of like investing in Bitcoin, in
Yeah.
2013. This, like, his guy might be the one, but it's gonna take him a few years. So
Right.
I didn't have too many people on my back like that, or at least I didn't feel like it. There's probably people here and there, but I brushed them off pretty easily.
Yeah. I mean, do you also think on the flip side of that, which I've noticed of obviously now being that I'm actively trying to build relationships with players in our community and our collective due to the fact of just building we evolve, and I realized there is kind of a coldness and there's like this wall. Yeah, and I'm still an athlete. So there's still that element that I am an athlete, but still it's like now I feel like because of all the stories and people saying you can't trust, keep your tight circle, it's like now the wall of is up higher and is thicker. But
Hmm.
could that be a negative when you actually have real people trying to bring fruitful, opportunities or collaborations to you? And now, is that total lack of trust. Is like you can't trust nobody. Everybody trying to sell something, everybody
Hmm.
trying to get over. And now it's kind of like this element where it's like, dang, it makes it that much harder because nobody can really trust anybody. I mean, do you feel there's like kind of a flip side negative part of only having your tribe and not getting too close or building relationships with other people outside of that tribe?
I think so, yeah. Because it might be someone that you come across that is someone you should definitely network with, that can help you in a lot of things. But like you said, everyone's talking to you. You just don't trust them, and then you miss out on that opportunity. So it's really hard, especially when you're young, to filter out who's really there for you, especially in something like sports, just in life period.
Hmm.
Young people, they make mistakes of who to trust all the time. So it's hard when you probably have 5 times the amount of people reaching out to you, trying to see what you got going on. Some people trying to help you, and at the end of the day, it's like, how do you really know? So there's people that could be with you since day one, that were only there because they knew where you were going to take them. When
Right.
it's all said and done. So, yeah, it's real hard to filter out, especially these days. I feel sorry for the kids these days in terms of like who to trust, because there's just so many ways to access people these days on social media. Everyone is just one DM away, one ad away. So I'm sure the trust
Yeah.
level is very low.
Yeah, I mean, even that, shoot, certain. I mean, again, I'm understanding it because I'm actually trying to connect with people. And so I'm like, dang, like I can't, like, yo, bro, we played. I was on the women's CDI. I've watched games with you, and I can't get a DM because the DM, if you're not friends, you can't. The DMs go to the second
Yeah, it
DM,
goes
and
in
I know
request.
nobody,
Yeah,
nobody reading that one. So then it's like, then there's certain people I've met in person finally, and I'm like, yeah, man, I DM'd you, and they like, my fault. Like I don't check that one at all, and it's those things where it's probably, 1 out of 10. And of course you're not checking for
yeah,
that 1 out of 10 or 20. But there is that downside, the unfortunate side when you're trying to protect yourself. It's like maybe you block some blessings in some cases, but it's also like if you're too open, you open up the gates for some stuff to come in that you don't want. And so yeah, it's interesting though. You first went to Malaysia, right?
yes. Rookie year, yeah.
I don't even know anyone that I knows anyone ever played there. And so, what was the first week like? What was the first week like being there, and what did you learn about yourself before the first ever game?
The first week, it wasn't that bad. I didn't know anything about Malaysia either until I signed that contract. But I was in Kuala Lumpur, which is the capital, and is really nice. It was a easy transition for me. It wasn't America, but it was close. It had everything
Hmm.
had everything that an American kid first time living overseas could need. So, for me, I felt like I could get used to this overseas life. That's what I
Yeah,
started to feel like early on. Yeah, in the beginning, it was a really good experience for me. I can't lie.
got you. And for as the playing style, what was that like being there? Did you see any other players that you knew of or had crossed paths with in college?
No, it was obviously the skill gap. between the Americans and the locals. So it was very wide. There were a lot of older guys in that league. I was the youngest import actually. I think I was 20, 22, and there were a couple guys around my age, 23 or so. Most of the guys were like guys like in the second half of their careers. An ex NBA guy from 15, 18 years ago, and everyone's putting up 20 and 20. And it was physical. You know, it was my first time like being like one of the main offensive weapons. So, you know,
Mm-hmm.
I got to grow my game in that sense and take on a new role, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, it was definitely my first taste at a different game for me.
Got you. I guess we can transition to Venezuela, which is the biggest story, of course, one of the biggest big stories from your career. I guess again, I don't even you know the story better of how where to start, so we can really capture because I think it's just one of those things where it's a lot of lessons that could be learned and just things we can kind of talk about. But for the situation before you asked to go home, like what did things feel like? What were the signals? How did all of that unfold being there and going through the situation you went through?
Yeah, leading up to me asking to go home, there were just a lot of things going on in the country. You know, for the people that don't know, they were like dealing with a lot of civil unrest. They had economic problems. They had bad violence. There was just a lot going on. They had food shortage, and a lot of those things started to affect us in a way. Like, for
Hmm.
example, we used to only eat at one restaurant. We used to eat there for lunch. We used to eat there for dinner. That was it. No McDonald's. Couldn't order or go to a different restaurant unless you're like a local guy with a car. We would order food, and sometimes we'd order off the menu. You just order whatever you want. So you say like, I want a chicken sandwich. Leading up to right before I left, it was times where the food shortage would affect us. When you'd be like, let me get a chicken sandwich, and they'd be like, well, we ain't got chicken today. All right, let me get a
Man.
salad. We ain't got lettuce. Let me get a hamburger. We ain't got bread. Like it was stuff like that, and it was bad for the locals. Like we would see them in the morning line up around the block to get like rationed out free food, and it'd be like, okay, well maybe I sound a little ungrateful because I got to get steak instead of chicken. But as an American, there's only it's like small things that you look forward to when you're in a tough situation,
Yeah.
and it's like, man, like I can't even get a simple salad when that's all I look forward to all day. And it was a lot. Like at the apartments, the Wi-Fi was horrible. You could barely talk on the phone. You could barely watch Netflix. We were like secluded in like a gated community, so you can't really go outside. There's nothing to do. They started cutting off the water at like 10 p.m. So if you don't brush your teeth or shower, and then you're done. And it was just I just kind of felt like I was in jail. And
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really get homesick, but it was just a lot leading up, and then I just had a son that was born a few months prior, so like I really wanted to get a break, and then yeah, that's when things kind of turned left for me.
Yeah. I guess before they turned left, the starting point, the research part, before you even signing the contract, before going, did you have enough information about the situation where it was just kind of like, okay, but I'm going? Or were you told something and it wasn't the reality? Because again, some people say it's our fault. Oh, the player, you should have known, you went, or players are going to go anyway. They say those things. But I guess for you,
hmm
before even going and signing the contract to go to Venezuela, what story were you told that said, okay, I will go?
Honestly, I didn't do any research. That was on me, and that was intentional. I remember when I signed, I was talking to somebody, and they asked me like, "Didn't some baseball player get killed there or something?" I just shrugged it off. Like I was like, "I don't know," and I didn't want to look because there's I was signing for good money. It's my first time in my career making really good money, and I was like, I'm gonna just go and I'm gonna find out there. And then that's when I get there. And like, soon as I get there, I meet with the coach, and he tells me like, you gotta take off your chain. You can't walk with your phone out in public. That restaurant that we're gonna eat at every day, I just got robbed there last night. Like, don't go in dark places. Like, I'm learning all of these things, and then I do my own research when I get home to the apartment, and then that's when I find out like this is the world's most dangerous country, and I'm learning all the crazy stuff that's going on. And yeah, it was ignorant of me to ignore all of that. I don't know how I would have felt if I had done that research prior. if I
Hmm.
would have went or not, if the money would have motivated me. But yeah, it was crazy to experience that in real time while being in the situation.
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's one of those things where it's just kind of like, but then okay, if are you still going? Are you going to take that opportunity because you need it? But most times it's when you're going all over the world to these countries, really, some of us we really don't know. And even for not just Americans, I mean, other Europeans, now many
Yeah.
are going from Europe to Mexico, especially for the Women League. And
Hmm.
some of them have been feeling surprised or what they thought they were getting themselves into. So it really is something that it's a unique lifestyle we live. And sometimes it's just hard to capture all that information. Like, yeah, we could Google it, but sometimes, it's like when I first signed in Israel, if I would have just went off of what my mom knew on the news and Google, I probably shouldn't have
Hmm.
gone. Israel was one of the during that when I went, of course it wasn't a war at that time. You still had the Gaza Strip little issues, but I enjoyed it. It was I
Hmm.
had so much fun. It was beautiful, the good food. It was a place that I was surprised that people say things, but it's not the truth. The same as some people love. I think Armenia. They're like the water's beautiful, great food. So there's some times where it's like you can be bamboozled by the news,
That
and
too.
sometimes it's true. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it is difficult in some cases. All right. So 3 months. Thank you. You didn't get paid. You had to get your own flight home. What started happening when you're like, all right, I'm leaving, and things started to get a little bit go downhill for you with the situation in the business side with the club?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with the money. It was at first. I'll take responsibility. It was my fault because when I sent them my information for my money, my bank account information, there was one number off. So when payday came, it was a problem, but I fixed it immediately. I said, "Here it goes. Let me get my money." The problem was, and this is when it got tricky, they had some guy that they would send to fly to Switzerland to go get the money and do that. So it wasn't like they could just go the next day. So I mean, they still could have went the next cycle of the payday, but for some reason they decided to wait 3 or 4 months for that. I was a problem with that. And as far as me leaving, it was because there was a FIBA break that we had. The regular season was done. About 99% of the national team played for my team played for the national team, and they told us that we're just going to be there working out with the young guys, not even like maybe like one or two like side coaches, not even the main assistant coaches. And with everything I told you what was going on, it was kind of at its peak, like right before the break.
Hmm.
And I'm like, man, like you telling me I got to sit here practice with these kids for 2 weeks, and I can't get no chicken sandwich or no hot water or no water
Yeah.
after 10. Like I need to go home. I need to get refreshed. And my
Yeah.
teammate, he was living in Florida at the time, and he went home one time when we had a weekend off, and he was able to go home. So that's where the idea came from, and it was actually him pushing for it too. So at first we were asking to go. They didn't want us to go at first, and finally they were like, you know what? You guys go, enjoy yourself. So, I bought my ticket. I didn't even tell my agent. I came home. I was home for maybe a day or two. And then the partner agent messaged me. He said, yeah, the team doesn't want you back. They're going to send the rest of your stuff over. And then that was it. So, they tricked me into buying my own flight and then cut me. But I had a bad feeling about it. So I had packed all my bags and everything, but I think I just left one pair of shoes behind. But when I told my agent that I was home, he was real mad at me because that's
Hmm.
when he started to explain to me about how they switch out guys all the time. You can't just leave, especially without telling him, because he definitely would have advised me to stick it out. So
Gotcha.
that was just a young mistake that I made.
Yeah, I guess the partner agent didn't know either because your main agent didn't know. Did you ever meet the partner agent?
Maybe I met him. Honestly, I don't remember. I think he knew,
Hmm.
but I don't. I mean, I don't know if they told him or not that's how it was going to happen. Because like my agent didn't find out until the partner agent told him. Obviously, they're in better communication, and that agent didn't owe me any loyalty or nothing. We only worked with him for that deal. Who knows what was going on the other side of that?
Yeah. For you, if a player came up to you today, was like, I have a deal in South America, would you tell them no? Um, One South America, then I guess if it was just specifically Venezuela, what would be your feedback?
I would just highly suggest that they do the research. Year, for example, a year after I left, civil unrest got really, really bad. Like they like paused the league. It was really bad. You know, there were American players there. So, you know, I don't know if they had did their research or if they were just like me, because like that cycle just continues. So it's one of those things where, you know, I would heavily advise on, you know, doing your research of not even basketball side, what's going on in the country for real, what you can do. And then on the basketball side, ask around. You know, every team had a different experience. I was playing on the top team in the league, but the top team on the league is not going to be the same experience with the bottom team. You know, when we played against some of the bottom teams, they had a new import every time we played them. So, you know, and there's no telling if they would get their money. I was barely getting my money at the top. So, you know, it could be a different experience for everybody. So just overall research, always reaching out to past people and really trying to understand what's going on there, because that's the best you could do. You know, sometimes it'll help, sometimes it won't. Sometimes you'll just get blindsided with a whole situation, or I could tell you my situation and yours is the complete opposite, but at least I have some type of understanding of what you're walking into.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say do your research. I think is one of the reasons that I started Weave because I kind of got annoyed with that response because it's just like I could do my research, but like I said, Google will tell you some things. Okay, yeah, you probably could have researched their social unrest, but there's always something. It's like if a European right now says shouldn't go play in America because Trump, and you're like, okay, yes, there's those things, but like you'll be fine, right? But they could be doing their research and totally miss the opportunity because of what they're seeing on Google, and it's not the reality of like, are you really, is your life really in danger based on all the things happening in America? Oh, in my, well, depends on the person, I guess. Me, I would say no, depending on the state, your nationality, and your makeup. But I think for me, it's just like, what does doing your research look like outside of Google?
For me, is, you know, asking prior players, you know, seeing their experience. You know, that's one thing that I like to do when, you know, I've been on a different team every year. If I can, I like to ask someone that just played there last year, because I feel like they're going to give me the most honest answer, you know, that an agent or you're not going to find on Google. You know, that's probably like that's your best bet in terms of honest feedback that you're going to get. Yeah, as far as like, you know, whatever you search on Google, that it's not gonna give you the final decision of what, but you know, you could do what you want with that information to help make your decision. But I wouldn't say search on Google what's going on in Venezuela, then you see it's crazy, and then you say, "See, I told you, don't go." You know, because like when I went, like there was nothing, like no violence happened to me. There wasn't no protests or nothing like that. But if you search it up, world's most dangerous country, don't travel here. But like you said, it could be the same thing for America. So it's just about just having the information there and deciding what to do with it. I would say.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, a coach we had as well felt, when he was trying to get information on players he might be recruiting, he also felt he trusted before the agent or another coach players. He felt asking players about other players was his key thing. So, I mean, the consensus is players have the information. I guess now the hardest part is how do we get it at scale so people can use it quickly? Because again, there's the DM problem. There's all those things like maybe I need your feedback and your real information quick because I'm in negotiations. So like I done signed the contract. I don't know how many times it's like I done told somebody something like, oh, I signed already. And so now it's like needing that information timely, on point, when you can actually go back and make some changes in your situation or your contract or your negotiation that gives you a little bit more leverage before you get there. You played in 11 countries. Tell me, outside of Venezuela, of course, what are a few others that, give me two ones that you absolutely love, the highlight, and then give me two where it was another like, man, playing in this country was tough because of X, Y, Z, if you have two. But
the one I love, Italy. Italy is, up there. I love it here. Been here for 4 years. Another one, deeper one, was Finland. I wasn't there for long. It was right before COVID happened. Really, really great experience for me. I really love being out there. Crazy weather though, in the winter. But I was in a city with a really great community, really great team. I really enjoyed that. I would have liked to spend a whole year there. A crazy place that I was in, I would say Romania. I was in Bucharest, which is actually a great city, but the experience that I had there, that was my first year in Europe. That was my third professional year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just a typical overseas experience, like start to finish. And that was like but between Venezuela and then doing that, it really put me through the ringer.
Yeah, I played in Târgoviște in
Okay.
Romania. I think this is 40 minutes from the Dracula house. It was my second year overseas, and I mean, Târgoviște is it's 45 minutes from Bucharest, but I was in this little town and it was just like there were stray dogs everywhere during that time. I guess
Yeah.
that problem got fixed, but it's just like you see the dog one day, the next day is missing a leg. And I'm just like, what is going on with these dogs at night? So with the mix of the vampire stories and the dog's missing an eye,
Yeah.
a leg the next days, I was like, yo, I
That's too
gotta get
much.
out of here. But it was it was tough. I'm not gonna lie. I always feel bad because I know some players that are from Romania that are from some player areas like Cluj. They say is nice, but
Yeah.
for me, it was different. It was really
Yeah.
different, Romania.
Yeah. It's definitely one of those places where, outside of Cluj, Bucharest, voluntary, some big cities, yeah. A lot of people just say it's the same thing. It was in the middle of nowhere. You say stray dogs. It's either black or white with the answers. I haven't really heard no in betweens with the experiences there.
Right. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. You mentioned your age. I don't know if your agent is still Harrison Gaines. That's the same slash
Yeah.
sport.
Yeah.
How's that, being represented by him? How has that changed how you move? Has that always been your agent,
No,
or have
this
you
is
changed over time? Like, how have things switched if you did have a representation before? And what could you feel the difference in how you were represented with being
yeah,
with?
this is my third agent. We've been together. This might be the fourth year, I think, that we have been together. I started off with a smaller agency. I was with them for 1 year. It didn't work out. I felt like their connections were limited
Mhm.
with what I saw in my career, and so I made that switch fast. And then I went with someone that represented a lot of my former teammates and friends, so it was someone familiar, and I was with them for maybe like 4 or 5 years, maybe to mask off a little bit. I think from like year 2 to year 7 or 6 or 7. And he actually fired me. That's a crazy story, but he fired me, and I immediately went to Slash like the same day. And I've
Wow.
been talking to Harrison for a while because he's really good with a lot of my ex teammates. I actually knew him prior in San Diego. Yeah, he was one of those. You know how agents always reach out to you even when you're signed. You always just keep somebody in your back pocket. So I didn't know when I was gonna make that move, but I was kind of propelled into that situation, and I made it immediately, and I love it. I love it. They take care of me. They always look out for me, my best interest, real with me. They don't really
Hmm.
lie or try to pump my head up. They just say, "Hey, here's the situation. Here's how we can make the best out of it." I feel like that's all you can really ask from an agent. A lot of guys don't understand that, but when you get to that point in your career when you understand how the agents work and how they talk, and all you can really ask for them is to be honest and try to make the best out of that situation.
Yeah. I mean, of course, the agent job is definitely key thing is contracts. Of course, finding jobs, having the network to find the job. But what are some things you learned about money away from just what you were going to get paid that was in the contract, but, far as currency, tax, the scheduling of when you're going to get paid? What are some things that players don't think about outside of just that, what I'm getting every month?
Yeah.
Was something you learned, or if there's a backstory around that, and then touch upon if it's also something that if your agent or was checking off those boxes for you, or if it was kind of like you had to kind of check that off for yourself and they kept their main thing, the main thing, job,
Hmm.
contract, those things.
Yeah. I think the biggest reality is um, not expecting your money to be on time. I think a lot of times when you get these offers, you start calculating, well, I get paid I get paid on the first, I get paid on
Hmm.
the 30th. I'm gonna be good here. This money's gonna come in here. I'll be able to pay this bill. Then you sign, and the first 30th come up, and then you ain't got no money in the account. Earlier on in my year, when I was expecting things, I was like, I'll be good by here and there, and I wasn't. I had to start learning how to use those agreed days kind of just more as estimates and fully not fully lean into it and expect the money to be on time and save up for rainy days, being able to survive in those in betweens, because
Hmm.
especially when you're young, you starting off, if you ain't really got a lot of money like that, it's you're like living check to check. So
Right.
it's hard trying to spread that out, and sometimes you might not be that good with spending, and you go a little crazy because you're like, oh, I'm about to get paid next week, and then you don't end up getting paid for 3 weeks, and now you're spread thin. So just learning how to manage my money with the realities of how the payments work over here. That was one of the biggest things for me.
And I mean, dealing with that, and now, we shift to having a whole family. I always say for the male athletes, husbands, fathers, whatever, that have families and you're doing it overseas, I can't imagine the amount of anxiety because, if you just hooping overseas, you already, it's a lot going on. But
Yeah,
then you're responsible head of a household. That's a lot. I definitely have the empathy to some extent of like how much stress that has to be on someone when especially if your significant other and your kids are coming with you. My first question is, being that, your partner, in a sense, I think came a lot of places with you. And, in a
yeah.
sense, someone has to uproot their life and also go on this journey with you. How was that emotionally? How did you, was there ever a feeling of like, I don't know, did you feel guilty sometimes? Like, man, like, this is what I chose to do. My whole family have to come here with
Yeah,
me. Were there things that she was into that kind of had to be put on the back burner?
yeah.
Talk on that.
I definitely, there was times where I felt guilty with me and my wife. When she first started coming overseas, we weren't married, but we had our son, and I just, for me, my main focus was to keep the family together. She was working, she had her own thing going on, and I convinced her to uproot her life and come with me. I didn't have a plan. I wasn't making great money, but I was always transparent with her, and I'm like, look, like, I'm gonna make this work some way somehow, and she believed in me, and yeah, I mean, things turned out all right, but there's times where I feel guilty for taking away from her work life and stuff, and she loves the work. She doesn't work now, she takes care of the kids, and she like fully embraces that. She wouldn't mind having a little job right now. So it was one of those things where we both have to make sacrifices in order to keep the family together, and we both fully embrace what's going on right now.
Yeah, I think, I mean, again, I think it's beautiful. And, the flip side of some people, some males might end up with, sometimes you might end up with someone that is with you, as they say in the usually the music videos, when they end up with people once they made it, does that woman really love them or they love the lifestyle, the money? So I guess, you've been around a while, you've been pro, you've been college. Obviously, these are things that no one really talks about, but we all in this business, in this world, know. I guess, do you feel a little bit of a blessing because, you were with your partner in the phases when it wasn't looking like you were going to be something huge or you were going to be the athlete she's with that's making
Yeah,
millions? Do you feel a little bit like, man, I'm blessed, I got a real one that actually loves me?
yeah. Yeah, definitely, definitely. I would say so. I mean, when we were first together, she had more money than me.
Hmm.
I was waiting to get signed. I think our first year actually together, I didn't get a job for like 6 or 7 months, maybe 8 months. So it was her keeping me afloat at one point. So there was no reason to be with me except giving her a hard time basically. So I've always appreciated everything that she's done for me, knowing that it's genuine. I never led her on with money or nothing because I didn't have that. I just had me. So I appreciate from where we started to where we are now, knowing that our foundation is
Yeah, knowing what you know and your relationship, what are some things you would tell now college guys are making great money, NIL,
Yeah.
so everyone knows that,
Hmm.
and again, I'm in the spaces. I know there are women that's their 100% full blown day to day thought of how they gonna catch one, how they gonna get with this one, making sure everything is on point to get in those
Yeah.
spaces. It's a real thing. And so I guess, what is your feedback? And again, sometimes guys play into it, no lie, because the
Hmm.
attention is feels good, I'm sure. And some of these women are
Yeah.
very beautiful. That's that you gotta take care of the flesh.
Yeah.
What would be your advices to some of these guys when it comes to like dealing with the women in the industry? Maybe, yeah, of course, when you're young, you might not want, say, finding my wife, fine, but just how to
Hmm.
manage making sure you're paying attention to who you're
Yeah.
dating and why they're around.
Yeah, I mean, they should use, those same trust issues that they have with people trying to network. They should use that with women. And I know, I mean, it's a lot different type of conversations, with the things that women offering versus, some random person in your DM. So it's a lot easier to slip up. It's also hard because when you're just young, money or no money, you're gonna do what you want. And now, with these guys having money, they got the access to do whatever they want, and people have the access to them. So it is tough. And you probably, anything advice I'm giving now is probably falling on deaf ears. If there was a young guy right now listening to this with, a little sum in his bank account in college. But yeah, they should definitely have their antennas up and, move the same way that you would move with people that reaching out to you when you're not sure what their intentions are. When you're at that age, I wouldn't be rushing to try to fall in love with somebody so fast. I know sometimes it just happens, but sometimes they should think twice about what's going on. But the problem is a lot of people that age don't think twice, and they only learn the hard way. So it's one of them never ending cycles that feel like it's probably going to get a lot worse with what's going on now in college.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy out here. You don't even
Yeah, it's
you want to give somebody advice, like, I'll
uh,
pray for you.
yeah. I was about to say, yeah. It's one of those things where just kind of like good luck.
Yeah.
It's,
Like, I
it's,
wish you the best.
yeah.
Your family, your son, raising a son. I think, again, the young ones that get to have a parent that played abroad and got to go with them, I think they're gonna grow up to be so grateful, because it's really cool to be able to grow up and get that experience at such a young age. Talk about what it actually looks like to raise a kid in different countries while you're playing your professional career, going country to country. Like, what does it cost you? Like, what are some of the things that it costs you for the family and as parents, and what are some of the things that you see great gain for your kids for the future?
It's definitely a unique experience when I had my first son out here and he was just a baby. It was fun, but it was also tough because like we talked about community, we don't have that. It was just me, my wife, and the baby. We don't have no grandma's house to go to, or no cousins to play with or nothing like that. So it was kind of like we were isolated. But now that my son's older now, I just had a baby out here. Things are starting to be a bit more normalized with the experience. He gets to go to school, he has friends, so now that community is starting to grow a little bit, and it's a great feeling raising a kid out here, exposing him to different cultures, and he's experiencing things that you just won't learn in America naturally. But the type of people he comes across, the languages he could speak, his perspective on things is just different. So that's one of the great things about raising a kid out here. The tough thing about it is just being away from family, basically. He like my son, he like his cousin is like his best friend. They talk all the time on FaceTime, but he definitely misses him because he can't go to his house on the weekends, just only in the summer. And even the friends that he makes out here, I'm in a new place every year, so he builds these great bonds, and then we snatch him away and then take them somewhere else, and that always kills them. So that's one of those things of when the kids getting older and they start to build their own little community, then you have to tear them away and restart over. So that's always a tough thing that it's hard to get used to.
Yeah, yeah, I might have to get another one out.
Yeah, that's what they say.
I think now it has to be a strategy. If you're gonna be overseas, pop out two of them back to back so they have a friend because
Yeah, we got one just turned. He just turned 6 months on the way to 7 months, and there's talks about another one in the next couple of years. So we'll see.
okay, nice. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. To transition for the last segment, content. You're making content. How did it start really? Our generation. I mean, we do both. We grew up playing outside before the street lights came on, but then also we had technology. So I feel like we kind of in a sweet spot. It's not that we so TikTok generation. However, we're
Yeah.
starting to get out there and share our stories and stuff on these platforms. I guess how did it start for you to really say, "Hey, I'm gonna do this"? And why does it matter so much for you to really put yourself out there and tell these stories?
Yeah, it was in order for me to lead the TikTok, it was like a gradual process. It's actually funny because we're talking about Venezuela, and that was a story that led me to want to talk about it. Because I remember I was telling the story to other athletes, to previous ones that were playing, and none of them were really moved by the story. The conversation was always like, "Well, you got paid, right? Well, at least you got paid," and when I was in Malaysia, it was very professional, money on time. That next year I was in the G League, that's America, that money was there at midnight, 12:01. So I never dealt with money being late before. And then I realized how normal it is. And like people were making me feel crazy for tripping about money being 3 or 4 months late. And that's when I realized like something's wrong if people aren't responding like how I'm feeling. And that feeling just kind of sat with me for a few years, and it ended up leading me into doing a podcast. I had a podcast called the Buckets Business that I did with one of my good friends who's also an overseas athlete, and that went on for a little bit, but we just kind of had different passions. I was kind of really into the overseas life. He kind of wanted to talk about other things as an overseas athlete, but not like the topics that cover everything that's going on. So that kind of fell off. And then I led into, I was writing blog posts because I really enjoy writing. And I had a few athletes write for me that play overseas. But that fell off because, like you said, like with reaching out to people, I'm reaching out to guys that I play with, guys that I know when they see me, it's all love, but no one's responded to my DM. So, after a while, I couldn't get any posts, or I would talk to a guy and he'd be like, "Yeah, I got you." 2-3 weeks goes by and he hasn't given me anything. And I'm not gonna message you every other day asking you to give me something, especially I'm not compensating you or nothing like that. And I understand like, lifestyle's crazy overseas. So that eventually died off, and I'm always on TikTok, and I just said, you know what, let me take all these ideas that I have from the podcast, ideas I have from writing, let me put it in a 40-second video. This is going to reach somebody. They could immediately digest that information, and 10,000 people could see that. And then I can move on to the next topic. So yeah, just that. It's been with me building up, planting the seed from the Venezuela situation from year two all the way up until now on TikTok. So yeah, it's something that I'm pretty passionate about, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, definitely resonate with me. I think for me, it was the same. I just felt something was off. Like, why don't we know what we're worth? Why can't we know what opportunities exist? If I want to use basketball, if I'm still healthy and I can play, why can I use basketball to be the reason I could go see Cyprus or I could get to Australia? Play, it's not always about making a EuroLeague. If you're blessed, of course, enough to be healthy and be able to be around as long as we have, because not a lot of people make it there. But I think for me, it was just wanting to know more information. And I was just like, we know the information. All of us that are in the
Yeah,
comments are the ones that have the information. So
exactly.
it's not like we have any big, mean industry person hiding it. It's just the industry is not about to help us better connect.
Hmm.
But I think the biggest thing is like, okay, we all say this, we all talk, but will we show up when we need the blog posts, etc.? So I think that's the biggest question mark I still am not sure about. Like, can we really make it happen? Is it a fact that is it more so we have to create something to make it easy, or is it just that there's a psychologically thing of how athletes are made up that we might not be able to accomplish it? I'm not sure, but I will say, it was similar for me. Every single person I saw doing something, I was reaching out to and being like, "Yo, let's build something." because talking, I don't know if that's going to change the actual problem. But I think, it was like, man, how do we get players to now go from open to saying, yeah, that's the reality, to like, let's do another step to take some action
Hmm.
on these things.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. We just the things we go through is crazy, and then I don't know. I think maybe it is that athlete part of us where a lot of us learn to just like tough it out, not really speak on it, or maybe some people are scared to speak on it publicly, thinking they'll get blackballed. It doesn't always have to go that deep. You don't just have to say, hey, this current team that I'm on, they be tripping. There's ways to spread information the right way where you can inform people about what's going on. But yeah, I think it's just, I don't know, some about athletes where we just don't want to speak up, and there's just so much information out there that's right there, and I don't think we realize. I mean, there's more of us playing overseas than that have a better chance of playing overseas than in the NBA.
Yeah.
So like at the end of the day, like we're all helping out we're all helping each other out, and the guys that go into the NBA, they're going to be fine. All that information is there. It's always been there. It's documented, but it's not for us. So, why not share something that majority of us are probably going to end up doing anyway, statistically
Right.
speaking.
And some of those guys starting to go overseas
That too.
when they're done and
And
they
those guys
become,
don't know anything either.
yeah, when they become vets, some of them are going. And, it's like they're now finishing their careers, prolonging their careers, and going overseas.
Yeah.
So it's shifting, and it's like a huge opportunity for us because NBA is coming, NFL is trying to come. And even from just a lifestyle and how to adjust standpoint, there's so much information we have. And the goal is like, I always look at it as, again, back to community and Wall Street, Black Wall Street type. Are we going to go in rooms and they extract all our network, all our value, all we've learned and went through some hard times to gain, and not set ourselves in positions to be the consultant for these teams that want to go into Romania or be the ones that want to go onto the African continent. Like they're gonna need people that can help them insert themselves into these spaces, and there's a community of us that have existed decades that have already done it, and it's us, as I call us, the expathlete community of athletes. So for me, it's always like, yes is one thing, but then how do we make sure we insert ourselves in a way to reap fruitful returns and have some ownership in what our experience, because it's gonna be needed. The thing is, are we gonna like let it be extracted for free? And that's where I just kind of don't agree with. but you said overseas player stories need to be told. What type of stories in particular are you talking about? Because there's a lot of things. Is it just like even the stories of, I had a wild story where, things like guys getting caught with certain stuff, like the Brittany Griner stories. What type of stories do you feel need to be told? Everything under the sun, or just the general late payment team issues?
I honestly think everything under the sun. Obviously, the negative stories, those are the ones that get the most views and the most eye popping. But that's the reality. But also the positive things. There's a lot of great things that come from this. You could gain a lot of great experience. You can do things that you wouldn't be able to do as just a normal person. I can drive 2 hours and be in another country, and then the next day go to another country, drive an hour. Like those little experiences you can't do back home unless you're planning out a whole trip. I could do all that and just come back to my apartment here, and you make great connections overseas. You just, those experiences are really really positive as well. So I think there's people that they probably just see a lot of negative stories and they think we're just over here like living in hell, which is not the case for everybody.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of people been through it. So there's just two sides of the coin that I think need to be spoken about. You definitely do need to know about the bad things. Try to avoid those because those are happening all the time, everywhere, every day. But also all the good things as well. So you can understand that there's a balance out here. Once you catch your stride in your career and you take a little bit of control and you start to understand where to go, where not to go, and how to avoid certain situations, you can really carve out like a real stress-free career, I would say.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think to piggyback, the travel lifestyle that we've been afforded to have is, I know I've enjoyed it. I'm curious, so I've taken full advantage of going to people's parents' house and going to eat dinner with
Hmm.
them, even if everybody don't speak English. I've been able to just really be like, hey, I'm gonna go and do it and experience it. And I've met and built some really strong relationships across multiple countries due to just being curious and the willingness to like get out of my room and not stay stuck, not just stay there and go to the gym
Hmm.
and take advantage of being in some of the most beautiful places in the world. So I think there's a lot of that could be told that hasn't yet really. No one has really yet told the story of like the love stories of Americans and finding their wife or their husband in other countries from different nationalities and what
Hmm.
what that journey was like being
Yeah.
from other countries. You love each other, but now when you do make it official, how do you deal with these totally different cultures trying to make something work? There's so much there that I think would be really cool and beautiful to tell. So I'm with you on those stories being told, and hopefully Player TV. I'm not sure. We tried to pitch to Player TV some time ago, but I hope at some point we can be in rooms with people and capture some of those unique stories. To close it out, if Wevolve existed, I know the name Wevolve and everything we're trying to do is new to you, but if a platform like Wevolve existed before your first contract, where you really knew the benchmarking of salaries, you could get instantly ask one question about a country and it does the work for you to go capture those other athletes and it comes back with 10 player responses, within 30 minutes or so. And you really had that intelligence of we would give you a breakdown of what the country was, risk, all of that right away. Do you think you would still use something like that, or you think you would still only rely on the agent and the traditional route of like you're going and you're just going to sign anyway?
Oh, I'll definitely use that. If I could go somewhere where there's information of people that's been there before, that's like the ultimate cheat code, really. When I first started out, I had a few friends that were playing, but they're 1, 2 years older than me. Like they're still trying to figure it out. So I didn't. I was every year I'm navigating with only like a small amount of information, and then it grew. And I know more than the average person because I really tried to get research, and even then it was limited. So I mean, if you just go to a one platform that had everything that you need with legit information, I feel like that could like really like change people's careers. Because you're not walking into a situation where you're just blind about it, or you're hearing from your agent, and sometimes your agent might upsell a place just because is good business for them, or like you said, we reach out to a player doesn't see it, so you only got 2 days to figure it out. So yeah, having everything in one spot it'd be a game changer for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And then sometimes, no matter how much experience we have, I haven't played and touched every place. I haven't played and touched
Hmm.
every team. I might have been in Italy, but I can't tell you what some of the teams that were still in my league were like. I only went to the
Exactly.
gym and their away locker room. Like I didn't get to
Yeah.
experience that. So there's so much information that no matter how long you've been in the game, some vets don't know this country. Some
Hmm.
vets don't know that country or this team. And then it changes, like
That too. Yeah.
Italy some
That's a
years
big
ago
thing.
for women was a certain league. Now it's different. When I was in Israel, it was better league. It was more
Hmm.
respected. Now it's still a solid league, of course. Obviously the war and everything, but it's different now. So it's like information also must be updated constantly. There's no
That
person
too.
that can, and again, our agents don't live there. They might visit, they might go to the cup finals and go to stuff to do their networking, but they're not there every day. They don't know these
Hmm.
managers and these GMs as well as we know them because we go with them. We're traveling with them. We got road trips. So it's just those things that's like really putting in perspective how valuable we are to each other. And let
Yeah.
the
Exactly.
competition be the competition. Whoever get the job, get the job. But what we can't afford is to not share information because the more we all elevate, I think the more we all make money, the more we can fight for better rights, the more we can fight for better. But in the WNBA is a prime example of that. They were so
Yeah.
locked in together, even from like making sure they all promoting each other branding and their profiles and all that stuff. Is like they were so locked in of like we gonna make this an asset that they did. And I think it
Yeah.
shows like everybody can really try to eat, even if it's not a player. A lot of the people that working in the W are former players. So it's like you got to really build something that's an asset and really lock in collectively. And I think that's the step that in sport in general we have to kind of figure out how we get there.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think we're a very unique community, and if we don't really rally for each other, no one is. At least with the WNBA, you could get some of the public on your side. No one in the public in America is rooting that we put out information about the league in Romania. Nobody's asking about, hey, y'all need to make a platform so everyone can know about what's going on in Venezuela for the basketball league. That's a very specific request that only we understand that we need. So, I mean, I feel like we just doing ourselves a disservice if we can't all come together to help each other out in that, because it's hurting us. The information that I have about these leagues, if I just hold it in, I keep it with me, that's not helping anybody. I'm just bringing myself down, and I'm watching someone else drown.
Right.
I could speak on something and potentially save somebody or put them in a better position, and then they could pass on that information. So yeah, it's just one of those things where we just have to come together and inspire one another with the information that we have.
Definitely, as I think it was Kendrick, got to organize and strategize. That's the key thing. Can you organize and strategize? But I appreciate you, Skylar, for coming talk to me, chopping it up a little bit about family, your journey. I'm sure there's again a wealth of knowledge that can be shared, intricate details. But of course, definitely in the footnotes in the marketing, we'll make sure we tag all your socials so people can go and see the content you're putting out yourself. Best of luck with the rest of the season. Enjoy that Italian food, and I hope your family is doing well, and thank you again for getting Unguarded with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate this opportunity. It's a real great thing that you have going here. I come speak on here all the time. It's nothing for me, so I really appreciate this.
Definitely.
I guess I gotta do it on myself.